Hi, everybody. This is 1,145 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And I promise you, I did not watch a clip from A Few Good Men before I came live, which was not a good start yesterday and before I live to do that because what I realized, and I'm going on to Facebook to make sure I'm here and to be able to get any kind of questions anybody might have or information they want to share. Okay, there I am. I'll turn it down. Okay, thank you everyone. So 1,145 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And yeah, like I said, I promise you I didn't watch clips from A Few Good Men before I started the live because that was not a good idea yesterday. And I'll tell you why. Um, as horrible as that movie tried to portray the Code Red, and it is horrible, was horrible. Watching it from Team Find Richard Halliday's view, um, being his mother and watching it, it was so obvious that there was the same spirit as in our son's case, but also that Richard, what they did to Richard, is far worse than what happened in that movie. And very obvious because Richard's file started way before he went missing. So I would say in 2019, 2019. Um, yeah, I think that's when his file started. It might be earlier, okay? That's why I'm hesitating because absolutely it happened before 2020. And so the whole investigation into Richard began way before he went missing. And so, and we had confirmation of that because the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday and also from Captain Park and his letter. And I really need to repost that letter for people to understand what I'm saying because they were doing all kinds of um, investigations into Richard before he went missing. Um, and it was unfounded, yet the bold type print went to the disappointment, what they were trying to get him for, and not on that there was nothing found. Nothing found was not emphasized at all. It was all on what they were trying to get him to do, trying to get him to look bad, trying to get some kind of leverage against Richard somehow because he was a whistleblower. And and I want to talk about whistleblowers because a whistleblower is not just someone that reports a crime. A whistleblower, especially when you're um, in the military, and if you're in a government agency also, but if you're in the military, it's very different when you join the military because you have a contract that you have to fulfill, and you're breaking a federal law if you break that if you break that contract. If you go AWOL, that is a federal crime for being a deserter if it goes over 30 days. So you can't just walk away. You can't just quit and say, no, I don't want to participate in this. I don't like this. They're not answering my complaints. They're not answering the criminal allegations that I'm making, the evidence that I'm providing for it. So I'm just going to go get a different job. I'm just going to go back home, something like that. You can't do that. You are obligated to stay in that position. And so whistleblowers, especially if they're reporting on fellow soldiers and their chain of command, they are at risk. They're at huge risk. And that's why whistleblowers, and what do I mean by risk? Well, what they did to Richard, the retaliation, groundless retaliation that we were trying to figure out for a good year of just research and research. And by now, people that have watched absolutely know that we leave no stone unturned if we can help it. We will climb every mountain. We'll go down into every valley, cross every stream to get to the answer, right? And, we wanted to know, why was Richard having to suffer through so much retaliation? What did he do? And nothing really was there. Nothing was there. Um, the border incident, we went to the border. We talked to the people at the border, the workers there. We videotaped it. We drove it. Sammy drove it. Another Team Find Richard Halliday member drove it. The answer was always the same, that the construction pattern was so bad going into the Bridge of Americas that semi trucks continually would get caught up in that traffic pattern and be brought to the Bridge of Americas and have to make a U turn. If you did not know the area, if you're in a vehicle, if you were in the wrong lane, or just the barriers, they had the concrete barriers up, you would go to the Bridge of Americas, and it was a normal, I mean, absolutely, so many every day. You could see it if you were standing there. You could see it. The people that would have to make U-turns, the semi trucks that would have to make U-turns because the construction traffic pattern from their years long construction work that they were doing. And they even, when we got there, they even switched lanes um, to for the construction, right? And it was very obvious that, and the construction foreman told us, he said, if you used uh, Google Maps, it did not take into account the construction, and that's why so many vehicles were getting caught at the Bridge of Americas. And so that whole situation we debunked, um, but yet there was a retaliation for that. That was groundless, absolutely groundless. And praise God for the nurse there at William Beaumont and her record, because and everybody else. Look at Captain Park. Look at Jay Paulin. They could never ever say that Richard was went over the border into Mexico. None of them ever said that. And yet, Marlon Soto was trying to press that. Spent a lot of manpower. When you think about the millions of dollars to cover up Richard's case that was allocated to cover up Richard's case, I think about that little bit of time there, in addition to so many others, where they spent a lot of manpower going to the CBP and going through the license plate to find Richard's license plate and get the timestamp. And they were just so excited because they got Richard's timestamp going out and coming in, but he never crossed over. He made a U turn. It was only 18 minutes between the timestamps. And so uh, they would not even admit, because they couldn't, they weren't allowed, they were given a narrative. But we had proved, and thank you to Sammy C for this, proved that no way could you uh, go into Mexico and make a U turn and come back through and get a, a picture, another timestamp for the license plate in 18 minutes. It was absolutely impossible. But yet there was a opening area, and this is by talking to them. There is an area there that, and it was said that Richard was waited on the bridge, would not cross, and he was turned around. And that's why he was never arrested over in Mexico, because he did have his weapon with him in the trunk. And so everything uh, was debunked, the whole narrative, what the CID was trying to say to us and the command. Um, and this is another piece of the retaliation, the cover up, the misuse of funds, um, because without having to go through and use that manpower, just by going to the hospital, just by going to Jay Pollan, just by, they already had witnesses that Richard never crossed over into Mexico. And so that, because that was their big way of trying to say, we had the right to totally destroy your son. That was the excuse that they wanted to use, um, to say, you know, we destroyed him. We had the right to do it. And we always maintained that something really fishy is going on because of the attitude of wanting to destroy a soldier, using all of the tools that we have as citizens of the United States entrusted into our leadership to use to for the rehabilitation, the discipline, the proper discipline of soldiers, to restore them to duty, to be useful in their service in the military. And that is not not the attitude we were getting. And so it was very clear that they wanted to have some kind of reason, and they didn't, because we debunked it. The other thing to note on this is that his field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment and then some. I mean, it was bad, y'all. It was so bad. 45 days of extra duty with full battle gear on, which is not allowed. You know, they have maximum punishment for a reason. Um, these guidelines have to be followed, and they did not follow it. They gave him maximum punishment according to the UCMJ or the field grade Article 15 rules, and then they added more punishment onto it. And they made him do his extra duty wearing full battle gear. And, you know, so, you know, you're talking about May and June in El Paso, outside duty, full battle gear, and a mask because it was COVID, the COVID time, which is absolutely horrendous for anyone's, for what? For what? Because we debunked. For what? For wanting to make a U-turn? For wanting to make a U-turn? No. They said no. it had to include the underage drinking, um, which is really, this was another um, attempt by the chain of command to give us an excuse for the brazen retaliation, continuous severe retaliation that they gave Richard, a whistleblower. Okay, um, and so what they said is that he got a DUI. Well, that wasn't true at all. Um, it's interesting. He gave Boleyn and another female a ride across from the gate, the Buffalo Soldiers Gate, a party house that is really close to where the FBI and all that is right there. And he waited in the parking lot. Okay. He did not go into the party, and the police came. We feel from that was really kind of a setup, but that's just a feeling. You know, you make up your mind. You make up your mind. You can go and read it. But Richard was arrested. He never pled guilty, and those charges were dismissed. Okay, everything was dismissed, and so he never pled guilty. The charges were dismissed. Why would Major General Clem Coward want to absolutely destroy him by giving him a GOMAR, making it a permanent GOMAR, and then because with a permanent GOMAR they could start chaptering him out of the military. So it was just a continuous severe retaliation against a whistleblower. He did not get the whistleblowing protection because there was no grounds for anything. A U-turn and a dismissed case. And do you know what the SJA told us? That Richard, he misrepresented the law. Matter of fact, we need to go and revisit this SJA because he misrepresented the law. He said that if Richard would go court-martial, that he could get 6 years in prison for his underage drinking because we take underage drinking seriously. Really? Really? I don't think so. And Richard never pled guilty and the case was dismissed. Yeah. So this is what he had to go through, not only being set up, which we believe happened, and then having to go through that, and the monies to go through that. And we talked to the bond, um, the lady that helped Richard with the bond, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, he's so sweet. He was so sweet. Oh my! When I saw him on the news, I thought, oh my gosh, I just started praying. He's so sweet. He did everything I asked him. He was so polite. What a great guy. And I hope you find him." That's what she said to us. Rob and I were on a walk when we called her, and it was really moving. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. She told us more, what she could tell us, and yeah. So I believe that it was a setup beginning in January of 2020. And from there, the GOMAR making it permanent. The chaptering is so brutal. It just opens you up for harassment. And then the field grade Article 15. He never got an Article 15. And then all of a sudden they give him a field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment, taking away 3 ranks, 50% of his pay for 2 months, making him do 45 days of extra duty with the full battle gear on, and wearing a mask in May and June of El Paso heat. Um, the harassing. So that went on for a half a year. A half a year of, and we even believe he was in the fight in the end of February when they were in the field, and he ended up in the hospital with a cut on his forearm. That absolutely was a defense cut. So, it got physical, it got abusive. We have also screenshots of abusive language. We have witness testimony of, verbal abuse. And then, of course, so it's professional abuse from the chain of command, verbal abuse, and then no intention. You have to understand, every leader over Richard, their intention has to be for the welfare of their soldiers, to restore them, to discipline them, to do their duty, to restore them to duty, to service of the country. That is their job. Okay? Not to destroy them mentally and physically, and then take their life away from them. That's not their duty. And it was very clear through even listening to Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, because he had to admit that the field grade Article 15 was concerning, right? And this is an evil man. This is a very evil man with evil intentions, committing crimes against humanity, getting a star for it, tarnishing our star, wearing our uniforms, and polluting our uniforms with his leadership. Look what he did to Fort Bliss when he was there, and now he's at Fort Hood, Fort Cavazos. And look what's happened, right? This is an evil man. I don't know why he has not been brought up on charges, because obviously he is serving foreign and domestic enemies of the United States. Obviously, he does not have the welfare of our soldiers in his scope, in his agenda. That's for sure. Matter of fact, I think it's quite the opposite. So, but he, even with his evil nature, even admitted that this was really bad, right? This was concerning. This was, but it didn't stop there. Okay? And we have confirmation from Leilani Hart. Leilani Hart is the one that brought the code red of Richard to our attention months ago. And, to bring that up and make that part of Richard's case is a very severe allegation. It's a very severe accusation. It is, it's just that bad, right? I mean, the people that do these things, in Richard's case, well, what happened to the leader in A Few Good Men? What happened to him? What was his punishment? I don't know. Um, but it is absolutely a huge crime. And in Richard's case, so many, so many participated in this. And I'm going to put up, I'm creating a graph that's going to help people understand the code red in Richard's case, because it's far worse than what happened in A Few Good Men, because they really severely, continuously retaliated against him, abused him physically, abused him mentally, abused him professionally, and they got what they wanted. They got what they wanted, and it was Leilani Hart that months ago brought up that this was a code red, that he was a whistleblower, that um, he saw crimes being committed. I think her words were more unethical, unethical behavior, unethical behavior from his officer chain of command, his highest command, and also his lower command, or the soldiers, right? The soldiers around. He saw unethical behavior and he said something, and we know that he provided proof because we know about the sex videos, the porn videos, and they were kind of panicked when that came out, um, that he turned them in. And so we have that on record, and we have Leilani Hart's words on record saying that Richard, what happened to Richard was a code red. And at this point, because we know so much and we're putting so much together, we absolutely everything points to a code red. I mean, when you have Dallas Hart's mother claiming that she's running the CID and she has, and we know this, we know that she had unauthorized access to Richard's file and that she was tampering with the file, and that video was tampered with, the surveillance footage was tampered with, that she had a very, very close relationship, like she did with Tavita Nusa, with Thomas Kane, and that, Thomas Kane is in charge of the security of Fort Bliss. And so you have Leilani Hart, Dallas Hart's mother, meddling with the security of Fort Bliss and the Criminal Investigative Division of Fort Bliss, and then at Park University on Fort Bliss. And then you have Dallas Hart's father, James Hart, being part of the DEP IDES, which is the health board for veterans benefits, right? To determine veterans health benefits, disability benefits, which I posted up, an explanation of that. You have him there determining what percentage, and you have Leilani's words saying that he was there having an affair with a coworker and coaching certain soldiers in what to say to get the disability benefits. So that's fraud. And then we have allegations, reason to believe that there is misuse in identities and social security numbers of soldiers, of veterans in that office. And then now we want clarity to understand what we have been told, that Amber Chase also works beside him in that office determining veterans disability benefits. And so you have Dallas Hart's father having unbelievable power over veterans that are seeking help or should be vetted and say, go to work, right? But he has this unbelievable power to access all of these very sensitive files of our soldiers, active duty and veterans, health files, and their military records. And Dallas Hart's mother having unauthorized access and power to records in the CID, and then influence at Park University. And absolutely she had and has influence at Park University. Why? Because she is still on the Fort Bliss footprint. She's still allowed to go there. And why? Why is she still allowed? When she made false allegations to the faculty members, getting one faculty member, one professor fired, making to the regional director, she made false allegations, and nothing is done to her. She's not arrested for what she did to people to bring them so much chaos and so much unnecessary grief in their life. So she has, what does she know over there at the CID that she can use there at Park University, that she can use with the DES, Thomas Kane? And Dallas Hart is pleading that he's an innocent bystander? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I can tell you right now, it's not that case. It's not that case. Because there is CPS involved in this, right? There is CYS involved in this. There's the Ann Ogle picture in all of this. And there's more. And there's more. And there is the Delta Battery 143. But, we have breaking news. We have breaking news if you're just coming on, because we have now received more institutional support. And one of those institutions, I can tell you, is Samoa. So Leilani Hart is from Samoa. We do have cooperation from Samoa because Leilani Hart has a long history of criminal activity and harassment. And she's a convicted criminal. She's a convicted criminal being allowed to go on Fort Bliss and being allowed to control this Fort Bliss CID, being allowed to control the security of Fort Bliss. No wonder she's saying, oh, video is being tampered with. videos being deleted, because who's in charge of all the surveillance and all the surveillance footage? It is Thomas Kane. Okay, it is Thomas Kane. So, and the other thing that is really telling with this whole code red, because that all points, if you're having control over CID and you're having control over Park, and you through that have access to people in CPS and CYS, and you have then control over veterans through the VA and disability benefits, um, and you have control over who is allowing people on and off Fort Bliss, right? It's no wonder that in the wake of Vanessa Guillen, in the wake of Enrique Roman Martinez, in the wake of Austin Hawk, in the wake of Caleb Smither, in the wake of so many others, and everything was being in the law enforcement and the higher ranking leadership in July of 2020. Look that up. It was being shaken like you wouldn't believe. People, 14 lost their jobs. 14. And during that time, because they were losing their jobs because of negligence and dereliction of duty. And here Richard goes missing, and Thomas Kane says, okay, we'll just sign off on getting Richard off the rolls, kicking him off. No jurisdiction there. He had a part in that. He had a part in not offering help to our family. He played a part in that. And how evil can you be? How heartless and callous can you be? And and I've got word now, intel, that now he has turned in his disabilities packet to James Hart at the VA, because now he's like looking for like a paycheck. I just wonder, because Leilani Hart said so, that, to your friends or whatever, James Hart would coach, you to know the exact words to say so that you can get your 100% or 80% disability. I mean, those are really strong accusations. Those are very dangerous accusations. But she made them. And she mentioned another name in there. So there's fraud going on, according to Leilani Hart, at the VA. And we know that Richard's Social Security number has been tampered with. And so, and his file has been tampered with. Because don't forget, not only have they scrubbed any mention of our key witness, the officer of the court, from Richard's file, but they also scrubbed sanitized, I would say, his file from any mention of the field grade Article 15. Right? Or the chaptering. They scrubbed it. They didn't want us to see the dates. The dates are a big deal, because that's a long story. But, we believe that's why. And we're in the process of trying to get that information, and get those timestamps. And why do we have to work so hard to get them? They should offer it to us. And that's another reason why all the evidence and the irregularities, you have to put the irregularities in there, point to a code red. And worse, what they did to Richard was so bad, y'all. It was so bad. And I am so convinced If they are going to do all of that, of course they murdered him. Of course they stuffed his body somewhere to figure out what's the next step. Who do we have to pay out? Who has connections in the mortuary affairs? Who can do us a favor? Who knows how to cut up a person's body and put them in boxes so we can, we don't want to have another Guillen situation. We can't bury him all in one spot. I mean, this is how deranged this is. How absolutely vile, vulgar criminal activity this is. And so, what was he whistleblowing on? Was it just the indecent behavior, or was it even more things? And because the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday and the CPS, and they were so hesitant. I looked in Soto's eyes so many times, and you just absolutely knew that he was lying, that he was withholding information, that he couldn't be that insane with his responses. You just know, and because you have to be there to know it, you have to be there to see it. Um, it's hard to then relate that to people so that they, no way would the lead CID investigator do something like this to you and not be transparent and not tell you, not not tell you that Richard was a whistleblower, not tell you that Richard um, was going to Park University, that he was an intern for CID with other key suspects, in this case. And no way did he tell us that Leilani Hart, was having an affair with, his good buddy, Special Agent Tavita Nusa, and had control and unauthorized access to files. And, I asked myself, why would Special Agent Soto, Marlon Soto Hernandez, why would he do what he did? And the only answer that comes into my mind is he's implicated. He's dirty. He's dirty. He's dirty, or he fears for his life. And I think that he's dirty. And I think there needs to be a big investigation. And that's why we put in a criminal complaint against him, because something stinks so bad, right? It stinks so bad. And we need to clean this up. This is a criminal investigative division there at Fort Bliss. He's nowhere there. I think he got demoted. Of course he did. Of course he did. Because he failed, not because he didn't do his duty. No, he failed to cover this up. Okay? Because let me tell you, if we would have just gone away, I'm sure he would have made his next bar in CW whatever 5 or whatever. I think he's CW whatever he was, CW3, CW4. He would have made his next bar or whatever. Yeah, that's how they're operating right now. They're not operating for the welfare of our volunteer sons and daughters. They are not. And this is why 3 years of proof of that, 3 years of proof through hard facts, irregularities, and circumstantial evidence absolutely points to one place, and that is Code Red. That Richard knew about the weapon smuggling, knew about the human trafficking, knew about the child pornography, knew about the predators of the child abuse, the pedophilia, knew about um, the misuse of funds, the misappropriation of funds, the funneling of money, the misuse of social security numbers, misuses of um, soldiers' identities. He saw the criminal syndicate, not just one part of it, he saw the criminal syndicate. And he saw the LLC, the House on Van Buren, what they did with the tactical move storage units, with the movement of all of this, and the common denominator, and the organization, the name of the organization. He saw it, and they couldn't just chat. That's why his chapter was so long. They were trying to figure out, maybe try to plan this, how they could carry off this code red. And while they were trying to figure it out, this is my assessment of all the information, okay? And how, how they were going to carry this out. Let's get these people on board. And that took a little time. Um, and, let's get some funding. Let's get some funding and get these people on board. Or if they're not on board, let's replace these people. Uh, you know, um, whatever, whatever. And absolutely, this is worse than a code red. It's code red on steroids. And so now we have Samoa. Um, Samoa, the government of Samoa, agreeing to help us, and so we're very grateful for that, because we know when you're that, uh, you know, the judge was so concerned about Leilani Hart and her criminal conviction that part of her punishment was to get a mental health screening, right? She had to go get mental health help. And we know from the testimonies of who we talked to, just her conduct in the court was enough to convince the judge that she did need mental health evaluation. So this is what's going on. And this person is allowed to have unauthorized, no vetting at all, unauthorized access to files. And of course, our son's file being one of them. We know there's many. I mean, look out, soldiers. This is why the soldier that put in a request for a congressional inquiry is so important. We don't know him, but there are other soldiers that have suffered. These are active duty service members that have suffered in her wake, in just being near her. Okay? And, so that is allowed to happen because no one's standing up. No one's standing up to it. And the more people that stand up to it, the safer it is. So we need to absolutely, if you have not signed the petition to support this soldier, this active duty Fort Bliss soldier that is requesting an inquiry into Richard's case, into the JAG, because the JAG, this is another thing. Leilani Hart had influence in the JAG, has influence in the JAG. How does that happen? You've got a convicted criminal that has questionable immigration status, and all kinds of nonsense going on. uh, running the JAG, also running the CID, running the Park University. Wow. Wow, Leilani, or whatever your name is. Um, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Except for you wrote that a code red was done on my son, and yeah, that's not good. That's very bad. And so we would like for those that feel that that's very bad, that we need answers, to sign the petition. The last time I looked, I think there was 155 signatures on there. I can put it in, you know, just post it again over and over. And please feel free to post it also over and over and get other people to sign it. It's very important because there is so much power in numbers. And we can do this. We can do this. It seems so huge, but it really isn't, because they've built their criminal cabal on sand. Okay? They the foundation is nothing. And it can all come crumbling down. It might look really big, but the feet are of clay. The feet are of clay. If anyone knows the Bible, you know that the evil Babylonian structure, the giant, the statue of Daniel, is it might have a golden head and a bronze torso, silver and bronze legs, but the feet are clay. And so you might think you're up against all of these government agencies, but without morals, without that moral compass, they don't know where they're going. Without the esprit de corps, the how can we glorify God today? What good can we do today? How can we help each other today? How can we be of service? How can we make the world a better place? What can we invent today? What can we build to benefit other people today? What can we do just for beauty and glory, says the Lord? Right? Without that kind of attitude in life, you're just going to crumble. I mean, look at what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the planned destruction, harm, the butchering of my son, which I don't know sometimes how I can get through this. And then I remember, I better not, I better not be cussed out by Jesus. And how does he cuss you out? He goes, ye of little faith. So, that's a big, I did not realize how important that lesson was going to play in my life, in our life. So you stand with faith. You stand on a firm foundation. You stand on the rock. And, it's not an accident that King David, when he was a boy, took 5 rocks to bring down with one stone Goliath, right? You stand on firm ground. You stand on moral integrity. You stand on the truth. This is not gossip. I'm not gossiping by saying months ago we got confirmation that Leilani Hart wrote that Richard was a code red. I'm not gossiping when I say that she had an affair with Special Agent Tavita Nusa and had unauthorized access to files, to soldiers' files, to sensitive files. And you can use those for blackmail. You can manipulate with those. Um, what does she do in life that she has that much time? Um, but that's a fact. Uh, it is. I'm not gossiping when I say she had a close relationship with Thomas Kane. I'm not gossiping when I say she was part of Park University where Richard was. I'm not gossiping when I say that Leilani Hart is Dallas Hart's mother. And Dallas Hart, a first lieutenant, platoon leader, right, goes green to gold. That's hard. You have to have some connections to go green to gold. And, my suspicion from what I've heard is that he doesn't have a clean record. Okay. And they're manipulating identities, are manipulating. They're just, they're manipulators, they're witches or warlocks. They're self-proclaimed witches. Isn't that what Hema Sochil, had on here? I'm a witch. Um, you know, what? Okay, that's a manipulator. They're not satisfied with God's moral compass. They're not satisfied with God's glorious creation, um, and the laws that He made that govern the creation for a blueprint for our happiness, our success. No, they want to skew it. They want to rewrite it. They want to be as God. And they can't be. That joke. Um, uh, can you create the world or whatever? Someone sent that to me years ago, and they went and got the mud, and he goes, wait a minute, you got to get your own mud. Oh, how do you make an atom? You can make a human out of mud. And God's like, go get your own mud. I made the mud. Something like that. The clay. Something. Anyway, it was a good little joke. I have to go look it up. But absolutely, they're standing on lies. They've repeated lies over and over again, or they've had access. I want to tell you right now, I haven't gotten anything in the mail. Um, so, I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I will get something. Maybe Rob and I will get something. But they have access to information. They have access to files. But they're standing on sand. And there's no future for them. They might have some power, but they don't have dominion. You know? They cannot be as God. And that's why, um, you just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and they're going to crumble. And the truth is going to come out because lies can't be sustained. And so now we know. We know that she was right as far as a code red. And so now we're bringing it up because that's where all the evidence is pointing. It's a big criminal cabal. It's so big, y'all. And people go, how will you have victory over these lawyers that work for this criminal cabal and these judges? Judge Robert Shook, where is he? Um, where is he? I hope he's going to be in prison one day. Um, and they have these generals that wear these uniforms of ours. They're our uniforms. Why should I be afraid of them? They are our uniforms and our stars, and they're polluting them. They're tarnishing them. And so, people just wonder, how can you, fear is the worst thing. So I just think gird your loins and stand up with the truth, with the light. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? From the very get go, we wanted to know, what did Richard do? What did Richard do? And we were going to stand with him, because when you're young, even when you're old, sometimes we miss the mark. But I knew that he was aiming for the bullseye, which means he was not antinomian, right? Antinomian. If you've been in that kind of Bible lesson, you're harmatia. There's two words for sin: harmatia and antinomian. Harmatia, you're trying hard. You're not perfect, but you're trying. And antinomian is you you absolutely want to assault everything about God. You just want to war against him. And we knew Richard wasn't that. And so, everyone has a chance when they're trying to hit the mark and they might fall short. Everyone has a chance to recover, to retrench, to, you know, pay your dues and go on with it. And that's what I was trying to tell Marlon Soto. And he was just like, but you're supposed to go away. You're supposed to not like your son. This is our plan and you're not following our plan. He didn't say that, but that's the attitude. And we didn't follow their plan. And because we didn't, we've exposed it. We've exposed it to be so evil, because not only did Richard have to suffer through the retaliation, not only did he have to suffer through Leilani Hart and the Hart family, um, but he had to suffer through being murdered and chopped up and placed in different with the encouragement or order from the leadership. Okay, I want to make that's what a code red is. To a whistleblower. Okay? No whistleblower protection for Richard. Let's make that very clear. There's no whistleblower protection that was for Richard. That's very clear. So the leadership for David Park to write that letter, for Jay Paulin to do what he did, for Michael Ruggiero to do what he did, um, for the cover up to take what it did, and the monies that it took. This was absolutely a code red, and then they covered it up. And they used taxpayers' money to do it. To do it. And it morphed into another crime, a violation of our civil rights. So if it morphed into that crime, how many crimes have been committed behind the scenes during the cover up for unwilling service members, unwilling witnesses, unwilling participants that were brought into this? And, how many crimes were perpetrated against them? What kind of, so because it doesn't just stop, you see, it always continues. The pollution just spreads. And that's why this is so important, to sign the petition, get behind this soldier, get behind our service members, 100%. And let's have this congressional inquiry. And yes, Veronica Escapar is, cover up Veronica, or, Vanity Fair Veronica. Absolutely. But even she will have to do her duty. even she might want to try to manipulate, but at least she's liable now. At least that congressional is there and it is well supported. That's what that means. And her liability with every signature on that petition makes her more and more liable for the dereliction and negligence of her duty. And that's why that's so important. So please sign. Not only will it give a hedge around the service member that's requesting the congressional inquiry, but it will also make, and Senator Cruz, because he was copied in it, more and more liable with every signature. And, so it's not just their action, it's our action that counts. And we really, really thank you for the 155 signatures. And I think we can get more. I think we can double it very quickly. And so, sign it and don't stop there. Have other people sign it. Share it in your groups. Explain it to people in the other groups because they're so disillusioned with our government. And they're so disillusioned with Veronica Escobar and Senator Cruz. I mean, Senator Cruz has more support, I believe, than Veronica Escobar. I could be wrong. I don't know. But, I do know that people are very disillusioned with the government and our systems right now. But explain to them that we're talking about justice here. And justice doesn't need an agency or an institution. God is law, right? Every word that proceeds from the mouth of God is a law word. And so if he spoke and made creation, then everything is law. Everything is God's law. So wrap your head around that a little bit and you're like, oh my gosh. So no wonder when we war against him, things are absolutely not good. Crazy. It's our destruction because we're fighting against nature itself, creation itself. So, yeah, I really feel like justice is just part of creation. And so we need to fight for it, never give up, and absolutely hedge those others that are fighting for it, like this soldier. And do not be afraid. Every hair on our head is numbered. Every breath has been already determined. So, why live in fear? And just do the right thing. Leave a good legacy. That's, what do you want your family to remember you as? That needs to be important. It doesn't even seem to be important anymore. People, are immoral and they don't care. They don't care that people are just going to say, wow, that current Adelaide, what a loser. She didn't care what her legacy is. And and the same thing with Leilani. What a criminal. What a harasser. What a family destroyer. What a job, a person destroyer. Wow. What a loser. What a loser. What, and so, and then fraud. There's so many, y'all. There's so many with the fraud of taking advantage of other people's identities and that. Can you imagine? What a loser. And, people just don't even care. But that's a shame because that's what makes us accountable to ourselves and to God is our name. is who we are. The descriptor, the this describer of who we are. And that's our legacy. So Richard is remembered as a absolutely beautiful young man, saint, whistleblower, defender of children, and I'm just so proud of him that that he stood against, because some other things that Leilani said is that they were trying to recruit him. You know, they were trying to kind of get him to join uh, their little group or whatever, and he wouldn't do it. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Um, because that's really tough when you're young. Very, very tough. And so many have to live through uh, that kind of grooming and then come out of it, if they're fortunate, come out of it and rebuild their lives, and they suffer so much. They suffer so much. Um, you could say, well, at least they're alive. No, they suffer. They suffer so much. And Richard stood, and the rest is God's plan, not mine. I can't understand it all. I just understand that a code red was definitely what they did to Richard and more, and we need to get justice. That's the only thing I can understand um, from all of this. So thank you, everyone. If there's any questions, I need to read, don't I? Okay. You should subpoena IT records at VA. We have institutional support now for phone records and account records. Um, so that is really, really good news. We know that Leilani has multiple emails, and yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I did get a message. Let's see, what was it? Let me read my notes here. Yeah, 7 different numbers since Richard went missing. 7 different phone numbers. So it's not as easy as people think, because, they get multiple emails and lots of different phone numbers. And yeah, so we are getting institutional um, support to do that. So that's good news. Do soldiers have privacy rights at the VA when it comes to their medical records? Well, not to James Hart, because James Hart's on the medical board. He has access. Who vetted him? I mean, who vetted this predator? Because not until Leilani Hart gets arrested for her notarized criminal complaint affidavit confession of her family engaged in pedophilia, incest, rape of, and illegal gun ownership, and her questionable immigration, and his threats. Not until she gets arrested for that kind of CID accepted, FBI accepted, with case numbers that we have. We're in possession of them. All right. That means that was leaked out. That means there is some meat there when she says she has control over CID, and there's some meat there, because her complaint got accepted. I mean, you're talking about felony crime after felony crime. And not until she gets arrested for what she did, and she's a convicted criminal on top of that, will I believe that everything she said in that affidavit is false. We know she has a history of lying to um, law enforcement agency. We know she lied and is lying about our key witness. We know that. We've torn that apart. There is nothing there. We know by talking to several people that she lied about what was going on at Park to an extent, right? And that she lied about these service members there in Hawaii. Just messing with that whole military installation, moving her around, convicted criminal. Um, we know that. So why haven't they arrested her? And what is going on at the VA that such a man, because she says he's having an affair with a coworker. And the coworker is very important in this whole disabilities thing. Okay. And then we need clarity now because our intel is telling us that Amber Chase works in the same office with him with some other very interesting people, right? And what are their disability percentages? I'd like to know. And maybe I don't have a right to know, but it's like just a curiosity of what the investor and investigators are going to find when they get to the VA. So they have some kind of criminal activity going on um, in many different. This is many different fronts. Thank you, Danielle. So this, I mean, can you imagine if these accusations are halfway right? This incestuous pedophile that likes child porn has access to all the sensitive files of our service members and veterans. That's crazy. Um, you should, uh, yeah, of course. And to leak them out, is that where these vile and vulgar, you know, Amber Chase has admitted to participating in the vile and vulgar harassment of us. And we know that they had access to even my husband's information. Okay? Fortunately, praise God, my husband is a very honorable man with an impeccable record. Impeccable. And so that is that's a blessing because I think they would have tried to shred him to pieces. And so is that what they do to shut people up? Take some time in their life that, oops, and then shred them to pieces because of that? I mean, that's disgusting. That's why Christianity is so awesome because we believe in mercy and grace and patience and long suffering. And, whatever you said, because they went for, oh, Richard just took off to now we're going to smear him. And it was like, I don't care. I don't care. Right now, we have a big problem. We can't find him. First, find him, and then we'll deal with whatever happens. Right? Then we'll deal with what's going on. And I don't know about you, but I think all of us have an oops in our life. And, so we need that mercy. We need that grace. We need people to advocate for us, to love us, right? To love us, to have our six. So I think that they were combing through our lives trying to find whatever and trying to shred us. And praise God, um, Rob had a really good record, very decorated. Okay. Did she start dating before or after Richard's disappearance? Those accusations she made are serious, regardless of what they would should have been followed through. Was the child ever investigated? Not that you. Um, this whole thing with Belen is really confusing. Okay, because did she know him? Absolutely. How did she know him? I don't know. I don't know. Did Richard care about her? Absolutely. And when we first talked to her, um, yeah, I just don't know if I should talk about it because it's such a sad situation because she was so young. She had just turned 18. Um, and I just was like, oh my gosh. And I knew that she was about to have a baby, her second baby. And I was like, oh man, I was trying to put myself in Richard's place. How was he trying to help her? Because absolutely he was trying to help her. We have the audio, we have the video. He was trying to help her. Um, I think some of the crimes were done against her. And sometimes when crimes are perpetrated against you by people that you trust and people that um, you know, they haven't deserved your trust, it's very difficult. And so I don't know. And then the funding issue. The funding issue. It's yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna let God handle all of that um, with Belen because that's a sensitive subject, a sensitive area for me anyway. For me, because Richard did care for her and watching videos of her, especially with the PI interview when she had no makeup on or anything, with her children, and her mom walks in and all of that. I mean, um, it was obvious. There are some obvious things that I saw that uh, why Richard would care for her. So I wonder how many different names are collecting different disability checks in the same account. Yeah, but medical records are a need to know basis. So if he wasn't working with Richard directly, he shouldn't have access, in my opinion, usually. Yeah, but this whole chaptering thing, remember? And I don't know about this COVID and how the chaptering went. And was he brought to the VA because there's these rumors that he was brought to the VA and um, weird things. And I don't think that Richard was willing to play their game, their disability game. I just don't, that's, uh, it should tell you something when Richard, at a young age, okay, at the dojo in Ireland, would buy some Hollywood money and want to give people Hollywood $100 bills and think that is hilarious because he knew people could be bought off and he knew that money was not dependable. Money wasn't the way to happiness. Um, that here, have $100 here, what, this is what you want, right? This is what you want the money, you'll do anything for money. I mean, you know um there was a point that he was making and he thought it was so funny. So I think that they misjudged him. They misjudged him. He wasn't going to do it for the money. So, but we'll see when all this comes out. But I think that they took him over there. I think they were trying everything, um, just like they've tried to try everything with us. But at the end of the day, they they murdered him. That's what the evidence is pointing to. Okay, what the evidence is pointing to. Um, he didn't need to know. Yeah. Um, I I just want to say this: James Hart is not Richard's father. Okay, James Hart is not Richard's father. James Hart is Dallas Hart's father. I want to make that very clear. And we'll see what all comes out. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises for everyone, including me. But I'm ready to hear about my son. I'm ready to hear about what happened to him. Um, I'm ready to get his remains. I'm ready to have the justice, um, because we've tried, Team Find Richard Halliday. We've tried to be as genuine as we can, as honest as we can, with all the information that we have. Um, we've been made the chief investigators of our son's absolutely convoluted case, with so many twisting the narrative, so many infiltrators, because of millions of dollars that were allocated to this to cover this up. Think about everything that we've gone through. And we've tried to wade through all of the psyops, all of the infiltrators, all of the narratives, and put together morsel by morsel what we felt like was hard facts, um, to, get a clear picture of what happened to Richard. And along the way, you have the irregularities and then you have the circumstantial evidence that supports those hard facts. So, yeah, and we're not done yet. But Samoa is going to help us, not American Samoa. Okay, that's why I put up the map. This is not American Samoa. This is just Samoa, Western Samoa, or Samoa. Um, it's a bigger island. I have the map right here. I can show it to you. Let's see if I bring that up. Yeah, so here it is. Here's Samoa. Okay, this big one. I don't know if you can see. And this is American Samoa. This is U.S. territory. This does not belong to the USA. And this is where Leilani is from. She's not from the USA. Does that mean that she's not a U.S. citizen right now? I don't know. I know that there is a question to her immigration status that she talks about in her notarized criminal um, complaint affidavit. And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of, because where are these, what's going on here? Why isn't she vetted? Why isn't she vetted? And why is she saying, where all the evidence leads, that there was a code red on Richard? So, and she's First Lieutenant Dallas Hart's mother, and First Lieutenant Dallas Hart is a former First Lieutenant Dallas Hart. Is he getting privileges? And why, after just a few years, all the trouble that he went to join the military, to go green to gold, to have a career in the military, to be up to no good in the military, in my opinion. Um, from what I know, but those are just allegations. His mother's allegations, okay? His mother's allegations and others. It's not just, we have other witness testimonies. Um, why is he out now? Why is he out? And why was it that it was just right after our officer of the court, key witness, made the complaints? You know, so Judge Robert Shook could explain this. Why? Yeah, that's another issue, another irregularity, right? Another irregularity. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much. Look, it's 1 o'clock. Oh, I've been talking a long time, but today was a really busy day, and thank you so much. God bless you. Have a great night. Sweet dreams.